Hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of On the Curtain podcast. A space explores the stories, experience, and creative practice that exist beyond the stage. Looking at how artistic expression can be shaped, not only through performance, but also through conversation and personal reflection to create a sense of emotional resonance. My name is Bida, and I will be your host throughout this project.
There were many moments where I realized, this is where I'm going in my life. I was very lucky that at high school I was able to study. I see it as really impossible to develop an artistic practice without an academic practice as well. It's just sometimes you don't realize the academic practice is there. A lot of the work I've been doing recently has been transdisciplinary. So I've been working with a number of different academics from different disciplines. So from photography, from law, from dance, from visual arts. And we've been working together to try and work through some of those ideas, rather than saying these are hard and fast boundaries, to say, well, we can work through disciplines. We don't have to stick to the disciplinary boundaries. And I was talking with the choreographer. We were talking about how disappointing it was that when we do this work that has taken us years to develop, the audience just sees something pretty. There's always a cost. If you want to work in the arts, there's always a cost, and no one knows what that cost will be or when you'll have to pay it, but it's always there. It's always there. The major advice I'd give, and I give this to my students as well, and this is a piece of advice that's really insanely important, and that's there's no such thing as failure, or rather the only failure is to give up. That's the only way you can fail, is if you choose not to do.
Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Dr. Declan Patrick from the University of Waikato, who is an academic and theatre practitioner with a huge background spanning performance, dance, directing, and theatre studies. Alongside academic research, his creative practice offers a unique perspective on how performance unfolds both on and beyond the stage. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Declan.
You're welcome. I'm quite looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're looking forward to it. So, first question, could you please briefly introduce yourself a little bit, like what first drew you from these art forms?
Okay, yes. So, when I was very young, my parents sent me off to learn music, as many parents do. Then when I turned around 12, my parents took me aside and said, okay, it's time you earned your living. So they sent me out as a musician at the age of 12 to earn my living. And while other kids were off, having parties or having friends or playing, I was working. I was working as a musician, as a performer, from the age of 12 up until around the age of 22. I was working pretty much every evening and during the weekends. So I worked my way through my first 3 university degrees as a musician.
That's very interesting to hear, even though maybe there's some part of bitter in it. I can feel it, and I totally can relate it to it, even though maybe my background doesn't have this part of musician, but as a kid, I always want to, going deeper in the field of arts and musical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very fascinating.
Well, yes and no. So yes, there is a little bit of bitterness in that I feel I missed out a bit on childhood. But on the other hand, it also taught me that I can always earn my living, which is an incredibly powerful lesson to learn for a child, and an incredibly empowering lesson to learn for a child.
Definitely, yes. Totally agree with you. So, among your career, isn't it, was there any particular moment that made you realize that, okay, this is the passion that I want to pursue?
There were many, many moments where I realized, oh yeah, this is where I'm going in my life. I was very lucky that at high school I was able to study drama, and that my drama teachers and music teachers were encouraging and able to see that this was something that really spoke to me in a way that was really not so much about necessarily a career path, but it's something that was really interesting, that was worthy of study, of understanding more.
Yes, I mean, I used to be a drummer, like I play drum, and yeah, there's some kind of movements that really trick me so much, like I think maybe, this is it, like I want to, keep doing this, but very unfortunately, I didn't go through it, so yeah, but
you're still young. There's still time if you wanted to.
I mean, that's the point. We can always restart everything.
We can change, we can grow, we can develop, and we should.
Totally.
We really should.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? I mean, the point of life is just experience it, different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much, yeah.
To learn.
Yeah. So your work, I can see it. It often moves between, performance, directing, and academic research.
Yes.
So how do you find balance between these two, and how these different practice they adding layers to each other?
Okay, well, I think you just put your finger on it. It adds layers. So, although I started as a musician, I've also worked as an actor and singer and dancer, choreographer, director, writer, and probably the thing I do best is an artistic director, as well as academic. And the way that my work flows between these is because they're not actually separate things. They're all the same thing.
Totally agree.
That they all come from the same place. And yes, you develop different skills to cope with each different genre or area, but the base of it is all the same. It all comes from the same place. So I see it as really impossible to develop an artistic practice without an academic practice as well. It's just sometimes you don't realize the academic practice is there. And it's only when you start to really look at what you are making that you realize, oh, actually there is theory here. Oh, actually, yes, I am creating new work here. I'm creating new knowledge. I'm just not articulating it as new knowledge. I'm articulating it as creative practice. But it's the same thing. And I think that that's an incredibly important realization for anyone, especially students coming through, and that's that they're not separate things. They're all the same thing. It's just a different way of thinking or looking at it.
Like different ways of expression.
Yes.
Expression of art.
Yeah.
I think literally we cannot find any separate, arts, because they are all united, as each.
They are.
Yeah.
And often the way that we think about them is completely arbitrary. So we create categories, and we do this in academia, but also in the way that we live. We create categories and then say, oh, our art has to fit into the category, or our knowledge has to fit into the category, without actually acknowledging that those categories are something that we've just made up.
Yes.
We've made up our own rules and said, okay, we have to fit within that.
To set the boundary, to set
Yeah.
the class and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we make it up. It's not that it's an immutable law of physics. It's simply a category that we've decided on
Yeah.
that we can move through. We don't have to stick to it.
It's like a fluid process.
Yes, it's a fluid process.
Yes.
A lot of the work I've been doing recently has been transdisciplinary. So we've been working, I've been working with a number of different academics from different disciplines. So from photography, from law, from dance, from visual arts. And we've been working together to try and work through some of those ideas, rather than saying these are hard and fast boundaries, to say, well, we can work through disciplines. We don't have to stick to the disciplinary boundaries. And what we found was that we were learning enormous amounts from each other during the course of the research. And that the roles that we had decided on were not the roles we necessarily stuck to, that we, as you said, became more fluid in our approach to research.
Yes. I think, personally I am also a photographer,
Mm-hmm.
and I study this as my major, so sometimes I do realize that, things can be somehow they can connect it with each other,
Yes.
and they're just gonna benefit, and they can serve as a kind of combination and to the a main topic. And we can just what we do is just adding layers to it. And you also have the part of academic research. So I used to study sociology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a human being live in this kind of certain society, we all know how it works. We all know how they function. But
do we?
I think somehow we can, but
Yeah.
the things that we do not know is how we're gonna translate it into some kind of very specific theory. Into some
Okay, I
kind of
see where you're going.
yes.
Yeah.
And when I study it, like when I go in deeper and deeper, okay, I know what is globalization. It's really interesting to know, okay, so this is the basic code, underlying the society structure. Yeah, fascinating process.
But it's also really worth thinking that these ideas that we're talking about, for example, globalization, that's an idea that that existed before someone put a label on it.
Yes.
So it's not so much that we say, oh, well, now we're practicing globalization. It's more that an academic saw what was happening and said, okay, we can think about this in terms of, yeah. So it's sort of chicken and egg territory in a way. But then we find that sometimes that term can trap us.
Yes.
So a term that's intended to help understanding, and often does help understanding, because it's talking about certain trends or ways that we can understand the world, can also trap us and go, okay, this is the only way to understand the world. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need a word to define it,
Yeah.
how to identify it. But
Yeah.
throughout this process, we just gain a lot of new perspective on this, and
Yes.
we developed.
Yeah.
That's the point.
So ideas are always developing.
Yes.
It's not around a sort of fossilization of ideas.
And just like arts,
Yes.
just like the practice
Constantly.
in the field of art, like people of different, perspectives, and they putting their opinions together, and we, to see if we can create something new,
Yes.
Yes, definitely. So shall we move on to the next question?
Sure.
Okay. So, what do audience often not see about the work that is beyond performance, in your opinion?
Well, quite recently, I was dancing in a show, and it was quite difficult dance. And I was talking with the choreographer, and we were talking about, the work that we were doing that was really technically challenging.
Yes. Sometimes it does. Yes.
And we were talking about how disappointing it was that when we do this work that has taken us years to develop, the audience just sees something pretty.
And they don't actually cherish the core.
They don't see the enormous amount of work that actually goes into it.
Yes.
The not just hours, but years of work that goes into it. They see something that's pretty and nice. So it's a really different, it's a really different point of view when you're making, because you can see the enormous amount of work that goes into every single second of performance.
So maybe the things that we can try is to not just only show the audience the prettiest side, of performing arts. Maybe we can just show them like something behind the scenes.
Well, we do, and one of my favorite choreographers or theatre makers is a French artist called Jérôme Bel. And one piece which I really love and that I make all my students watch is a piece called Véronique Douanier, in which he puts a French ballet dancer on stage, and she talks about her life and dances some of her favourite pieces, but without any artifice whatsoever. So you can see her at the end of her dancing, out of breath, exhausted, having to stop and have a little bit of water, being unable to speak because she can't breathe fully. And you can see the effort that it's taking her to make something beautiful. And she talks about the enormous toll it takes on her health to dance beautifully, and that her back is in a terrible state because she's been doing this for 30 years and her vertebrae have disintegrated. So you're seeing something beautiful, but you're also seeing the cost of it. And it's a fantastic piece, so I recommend everyone have a look at it.
I will note that down.
Yeah.
And the cost of practice of arts is something that we cannot separate. We have to bring it to the topic, to the conversation, because we all do. Like, you have to sacrifice maybe your mental health, maybe your physical health to achieve, to some kind of position of you are currently right now. And yes, personally, I'm very sorry to hear that, to the status of the dancer that you just mentioned about. It can be related.
I look, there's always a cost.
Yes.
If you want to work in the arts, there's always a cost, and no one knows what that cost will be or when you'll have to pay it, but it's always there. It's always there.
Yes.
And with dance, it's particularly difficult because it's such elite dance is very hard on the body, which is why the average age of a ballet dancer is 21. I know that if anyone hits, for example, 40 and you're still dancing, you're a dinosaur.
Yeah.
So it's worth thinking about that. And as we get older, the cost gets greater. So you see people if you find actors, dancers, singers in their late 50s or 60s, they're very rare. They're very rare now.
I very appreciate all the arts practitioners. Like they trying to giving their everything to it.
Yes.
And I know there's some people, as they getting older, and they're still trying. I mean, they never give up, and
No.
that's the point that we do want to appreciate. Because everything is not so easy. Everything is difficult, especially in this time. People sometimes don't give positive feedback to the person who actually just trying to, giving the audience the best they could. Sometimes, yes.
I'm not sure that it's always useful to give positive feedback, or to be blindly positive about the arts. It's a really difficult area, because it is an area where people have opinions.
Yes.
But they're not always necessarily, how can I say, they're not always necessarily educated opinions. So often it's really hard, if you're not familiar with a particular type of performance, to give an educated opinion about it. So, for example, when you have never really been exposed to opera, it can be really strange and difficult to deal with. And if you encounter it in sort of situations or contexts where you're not in the optimum space to do it, it can be a really negative experience. It can also be incredibly positive. But it just depends on your situation and context. How you're engaging, when you're engaging. So, for example, I was brought up in a family which loved opera, so it was really easy for me. It was easy for me to love it.
Yeah.
But for other people, they haven't had that same journey, and it's much more difficult to access.
Yes.
And without taking away from that, sometimes when people encounter opera in a situation where they are exposed to opera in an opera house with a great company, suddenly it all becomes clear why there's such a big fuss about it, why it's so wonderful. But if all they hear is negative stuff about it, that's what they're going to learn.
Yeah. I mean, everything we're going to teach us a lesson, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So I do feels like, like if you are born within such a environment, like your family background, it gives you the access to it, the access to the, very specific kind of art practice. Do you feel like maybe it is a privilege to say so? This privilege, it doesn't mean the negative. You can take it as a positive or.
Absolutely, I take it as an extreme positive. I mean, the thing is, what we're taught when we're young is what we continue with in our lives, and we're always taught something. Sometimes it can be particular cultural practices. It can be particular practices, to do with how you live your life in general. There are all sorts of practices we're taught, and we continue those, and we learn from them, develop them, grow them, and that's what we take forward. But they can also change. As you grow older, you can choose. You can choose how to work with those.
Yes. And it's totally depend on you now.
Yeah.
Yes.
as you grow up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You have your choice now.
Yeah.
So, like, in your opinion, what challenges are, contemporary performing arts facing? I think you have already mentioned a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Do you want to add some point? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, contemporary arts do face challenges going forward. One of the wonderful things that's happened is that there's been a blurring between the sort of concepts of popular and high art, which is fantastic, that they're sort of bleeding into each other. They're becoming one thing, and that's really positive. So you can see aspects of sort of very high art contemporary performance practice. You can see that coming through in pop music videos, and you can see it coming through in YouTube videos, TikTok videos, all of these sort of really popular forms. You can see the influence of high art, if you want to call it high art, and at the same time you can see it working the other way. So, if you're looking at opera as high art, well, you can see, for example, the sort of content that's being created in the last, I don't know, even 20 years. So you get things like Jerry Springer, the opera, which makes an opera out of the Jerry Springer Show, or Anna Nicole, the opera, which makes an opera out of Anna Nicole and her life and death. So you can see a sort of bleeding through of those areas, and that's a wonderful thing, and I think it strengthens everything. However, we're also in a place where there is less governmental funding.
Oh, yeah,
that all the arts take money and resources to create, and without being rude, they're expensive. They're really expensive. Most of us do it for love, and we shouldn't. We should be paid to do the work that we do. We need to be paid to do the work that we do because it's important, because it is research, because it does push boundaries, it pushes the understanding of the human condition. It's really important, and we should be paid for that, because it's a vital part of human experience.
Yes, I think I think I'm also part of this art field. Sometimes I do think, but well, you're gonna I'm from a student perspective sometimes. I do realize that the money is important some way in our practice, but do you think if you like being paid and your hobby or your interest or your kind of passion were going to be maybe a little bit like not as pure as before?
Yes and no. So I mean, it really depends, doesn't it? So
Yes.
okay, I've been very lucky in that I've been able to pursue my passion as a career and be paid for it through my whole life from the time I was 12. So I've had a 46-year career in performing arts, which is insanely long. So I'm one of the very fortunate ones.
Yes.
And of course, I've been very lucky in that the sort of funding I've got has been not without strings, but it's been pretty open. So I've been able to make the work that I want. A lot of people don't have that luxury. And yes, of course, when you get public funding or even private funding, first of all, it's an excruciatingly horrible process. It takes a long time, and arts organisations do not have the best interests of artists at heart. They have the best interests of the people who are putting up the money at heart. And they tend to be quite and I hate to say it, but quite dismissive of artists. So the money comes with strings, it always does.
I think you just brought up a very common social issue, Like I just talked with Creative Waikato recently.
Good.
Yes, and they mentioned about they mentioned about recent years the government's attitude towards towards art and their funding is getting lower and lower, which means they're not very supportive in the field of art, which is not a good thing to hear. Yes,
it's sad.
Yeah,
it's
really
sad.
Yes,
and it's indicative of an international trend, though, that especially in the Western world, if I can say that, funding for the arts is decreasing, and it's becoming more a sort of hobby that only very rich people can indulge in, which is sad, really sad.
Yes, and that comes to the stereotype part.
Yeah.
Like some people view this kind of high art, just like its name, some people view it as very inaccessible, that's irrelevant to our, daily lives. They think, it's impossible for us to, to appreciate this kind of art and bring them to our lives sometimes. So you just mentioned about the influence of, social media change on the practice of performing arts. So how do you think digital media has changed it? Changed the way, how audiences engage with kind of perspective of this art?
Okay, well, the really big one, of course, is that attention spans have shortened immensely, and this is partly, quite a lot to do with social media. So instead of sitting in a 4.5 hour opera, you've got 20 seconds.
Yes.
So the attention span has shortened absolutely dramatically. But on the other hand, what that's done has made that 20 seconds really intensive, and it's made people learn how to tell a story in a really condensed space of time, and it's taught creators to make something that grabs attention straight away and holds it for a short space of time. So in effect, what it's doing is it's sort of a modern equivalent of vaudeville or burlesque, where you get a really short burst of really focused entertainment. So in a way, it's a continuation of a trend that we've been seeing over the last couple of 100 years, or 100 years perhaps, which is shorter and shorter and shorter, but more focused and more, every detail is really important because there's so little time in which you can capture attention.
I think it also brings more chance to expose, to the audience. Just like what you said, finding a hook. And you gotta let the audience to discover by themselves, like if this is what they like, and they're gonna find it on their own. So yes.
And it means we can be exposed to an awful lot more. So there's such a wide variety that we can be exposed to. Unfortunately, the algorithms mean that we're not necessarily. We stay in our own little bubble. But the potential is there. The potential is there for us to be exposed to an enormous range of content that could be really interesting and that could really open us out enormously. And as you're saying, it's like a hook. You just get that hook and you think, okay, this is really interesting. Let me find out more.
Yes.
And that's that gateway into a form, and perhaps a longer attention focused on that form.
I think that's also the reason why I follow so many, ballet or maybe opera accounts of New Zealand in on the platform of Instagram. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we all do, we find something we like and we just going deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And we can follow that and actually develop it and start to think about it in wider terms than a 10-second TikTok. Yeah.
So, is there any advice would you like to give it to them, to the people just like emerging artists, they just entering this field?
Yeah, I can give some advice. So the major advice I'd give, and I give this to my students as well. And this is a piece of advice that's really insanely important, and that's there's no such thing as failure.
Yes.
Or rather, the only failure is to give up. That's the only way you can fail, is if you choose not to do. And even if you choose not to do, you can always come back to the arts at any point. And they're a remarkably forgiving field that you come back, you keep doing. The only way you can actually fail is to just say, I can't. Second you say I can't, you can't. So that's really my advice. Don't give up. Don't give up.
I'll bring my old way back, I think. Yeah. After this podcast, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I should. I really should.
Yeah, you should.
Why not?
Why not? Find a way. No one's going to give you anything. You've got to find it.
Yes. Life finds a way, didn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's my advice.
Yes.
For what it's worth. Don't give up.
Don't give up. Priority. Yes. So, looking forward to the future, what do you hope maybe audience they can take away from the artistic experiences?
Okay, so for me the aim is always change, or if I'm actually talking in academic terms, a sort of transcendence. So that for me, whenever I walk into a theatre or engage in the arts, my aim is, as an audience member, to be transformed, to have an experience that helps me to become more than I was before. And as a maker, that's what I always aim. I aim for my audience and my performers to come out being more than they were when they walked in. And I want them to grow and to develop and maybe to experience something larger. Does that make sense for you?
Yes, it makes sense. I can still remember the feeling that I just, entering the theater and I put myself in it. I just so immersive. Like you're actually living in it.
Yes.
Do you understand? That
Yeah,
kind of
I
feeling
know. Yeah.
It's something you cannot get on social media. Something you cannot
can't.
get at home. Yes.
That moment of live interaction.
I think it reminds me I'm still alive.
Yes.
And it just keep just reminds me that you need to go back. Yeah, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yes. We all need to cherish that moment.
Yes, we do.
In my life.
We do.
Yes. So before we end this interview, do you still want to add something?
No, not really.
No,
I think we've covered all the main points.
Yeah.
So it's really good to talk about these things as well, and to talk about why the arts are important, not just that they are important, which they are, but thinking about why are they important.
Yeah, I really like the perspective that you bring into this interview.
Thank you.
And may I ask some question? Can you please recommend maybe one of your favorite piece of music? It will gonna, maybe it serves as a BGM for this interview.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be anything, like a, piece of piano, a piece of ballet, or maybe opera. Anything.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would. Oh gosh, there is so
many of them. I know.
much. There is so much. Okay, so I might actually recommend from the opera Samson and Delilah by Camille Saint-Saëns, Delilah's aria, "My heart opens at thy sweet voice." So have a listen to that. But one of the things you need to do is breathe in. So when the singer is going into the chorus, you need to breathe in at the moment she starts the chorus, and it gives you a high. It's weird, but it does.
And breathe out, like when I finish.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
so
such a
breathe
magic
in the
experience.
voice as her voice comes out. Breathe it in, and it changes you.
I will note that. Yeah. I will have a try.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me if it works for you.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe who would you like to see featured in our future episodes? Or perhaps is there, someone else you would like to recommend or maybe introduce a little bit to our project?
Okay, so there are so many wonderful artists in the University of Waikato.
Definitely.
I would recommend several. I would recommend Professor Karen Barber, Associate Professor Laura Hohi, and of course Dr. Rodrigo Hill.
Dr. Rodrigo Hill.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I would recommend any of those three.
yes. Yeah, I think I should bring them in. I sent an email to them before, actually. Yeah. And I think that's the end. Thank you again so much, Dr. Declan, for taking your time, your precious time to share your personal experience and, valuable reflections with us today. And it's been an honor, truly.
You're
Personally,
welcome.
to hearing your perspective. Yeah. And thank you for listening. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.